Called to see if your back was still aligned and your sheets were growing grass out of the corners of your bed. However, you got too much to wear on your sleeves. You've got too much to do with me. And secretly, I want to bury in the yard the gray remains of a friendship scarred. Hey guys, what is going on? We got an episode from Hello everybody. I hope you're doing well. Carson Fram, I see that you say hello, so I say hello right back. The cat, she has this thing. I sing a lot when I'm just like putzing around the house, right? And I sing when I'm like just bored. You know, usually I have music playing in the house. I have a rule, and ever since I started working from home, you know, doing YouTube full time, the rule is I cannot turn on the TV. I do not have thumbs that work for a remote. I don't even have fingers that work for a remote. So I literally do not know how that TV is set up in the other room. My wife is the only one who touches it. I actually couldn't help when we had a friend staying the night, and I like my friend was like, "Hey, what the heck? I want to watch the game," and I'm like, just mash it until something happens. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, so I made that rule 5 years ago, and I absolutely love that rule. Like that rule has changed my life. Granted, I still have my phone, and my phone is like where I still waste all my time. And my other rule then had to become about a year into the no TV rule was no short form content in the day unless it has to do with the channel. So like if it's editing something for the channel, watching other short form content or trying to educate myself about something and seeing if I can find something interesting or spark an idea, then sometimes I'll kind of go down a rabbit hole. But even then, I try not to do that. And it has really, really changed my life in a positive way, because I don't know when you know, even whether I'm feeling good, whether I'm feeling bad, doesn't matter. I get into a state of just kind of like consumption when I'm on the phone or watching TV or playing video games. And for some people, that's great. They can turn it off and they're like, yeah, and now I'm ready to be in productive mode or whatever. But other folks, you know, me, I need to be like making something or consuming something. And I don't do a very good job of trying to do a little bit of both. And so, you know, that's why interpersonal stuff is so important to me as an aquarist. Also, you know, we also want to make sure that we're having a social conversation. We're involving other human beings in nature, in conservation. We're learning how we can get involved in that, or learning from humans rather than just from a book or whatever. And I find that to be like the most rewarding social interactions. And in the spring, when every year that I've been healthy for the last 15 years, I've led mycology as well as like I guess, I don't, for lack of a better word, I mean, I call it urban mycology or urban revitalization nature tours. And we go through the heart of the city and we look at places that were industrial and spots where nature has come back in a big way, either through active participation of humans and like work and grants and things like seeding hay bales and wood chips and oyster mushrooms and you know, the whole 9 yards, putting in logs and then putting in shrubs and then putting in trees and whole, you know, 10-year plan. And flip side, we'll go look at sites where nature just crawls back in, and you get this mix of like dandelions and invasive plants and muddy stuff and a lot of oil and things coming to the surface and what happens to it, you know. So we kind of look at that and contrast that, and it's something that as soon as I can walk again, like I want to get back into, because people sign up for that class And undoubtedly, when I offer that class for about 10 people at a time max, usually we go with like a group of 8, and I'll do it maybe 5 or 6 times for $100. And we do it for about 4 or 5 hours. Basically, I get someone who is by far, in a way, a better expert than I am, who is just drawn to it to be social, to maybe learn something they didn't know. And I'll get someone from, a salmon fishery, or someone from a restoration project that is right down the street and is like, hey, I can show you guys what I've been working on. And I've just found, the best way to learn a lot of times is to share what that you feel comfortable with. Even if you're shy and not super outgoing, even if you're not one of those kind of people who, that wouldn't be your first strategy. It usually wouldn't be like, and this microphone feels really, really in the way also. But yeah, so I want to encourage people, when you go out and learn, bring what you know to the table, because you never know when that'll spark a connection in your teacher that then like tells them something new, or you learn something new because they bring something up. And it goes both ways. Any good teacher should be willing to learn from the students, unless it's a very introductory level, like I'm going to teach you how to change an oil filter, or I'm going to teach you how to do basic algebra, something that is a skill or a STEM issue where like there is a right and a wrong procedure. Unless it's a procedural, if it's something cultural, something social, something environmental, even like physics and things, when you get out into the conceptual realm of things, we learn from each other. And that's why I absolutely love the aquarium hobby, because you sign up for this hobby and you think, okay, I'm going to be playing with fish. Like, I love fish. I want some fish, or I just need some relaxing fish. And then you're like, what? I have to learn about nitrogen? And then if you get really into it, you're like, wait, you mean 70% of our atmosphere is nitrogen, but nothing on this stupid earth can use it other than bacteria? What a dumb situation. Why does such a dumb situation happen? And then it's like, well, okay, oxygen is what we breathe, but it's in water, and all the animals were underwater before they were on land. So actually, gas dissolved in a liquid, or even a solid like ice, is the natural state of how it was consumed before it was consumed in the atmosphere. Like, us drying out is a weird part of history. Like, it is the weird step that happened after billions of years of cells and multicellular organisms that had their own water world around them, a cell wall or membrane, or not even that. Sometimes they had other things. So we've gone plaid. What's that mean? Does somebody am I cutting out or something? What's happening? Help. Bambi, what's going on? Good to see you. Also, hello to those who are in horizontal or in portrait mode. If you are in portrait mode and you don't like it, if you're like Rev Love or Yuyo or Fish Fam, if you don't like that on your mobile device, there's a way to go to the other one. There's 2 streams, so you can go back out, find my stream, and go into horizontal on tablets, on computers. There's a way to do it on the phone too. But anyways, good evening all. Gnarly Treebeard, hello, hello, hello. And Nano Aquarium Guy, good to see you as well. And USMC, hello, hope you're doing well. Jeff Kane, good to see you as well. Shosi, oh, yeah, from Spaceballs. I got you. Like the Tesla joke too. Got it. I got it. Okay. Like why there's a plat. Never mind. You either get it or you don't. But I got you. So who's that? MT Coiner. What's going on, Montana? And then we got George. What's going on, Mr. Ball Python Man? Although now you can't be aqua balls anymore. Now you got to be just aqua with no balls. Jennifer Love, hello, and Loretta Jackson, good to see you. Went to your channel to switch horizontal. Right on. Yeah, you can watch it either way now. You can decide to watch it if you're on your phone and you got it like in your car or whatever. I'm just streaming both ways, and the one that's horizontal will show up for people who are subscribed, but who are watching shorts. So that's the incentive, I guess, to do it, is that people who don't know what they want to watch and maybe they stumble into this conversation, they're going to have a chance to find us. Whereas before, it's just people who got an alert on the channel or are scrolling and see the live, preview, and they're like, oh, I know Alex, I'm gonna go in there. Elfish Tanks, what's going on? Assyriana, I can't get used to the name, but hello. You're on lurk mode for now while you're driving. Drive safe. Randall Ben is in here. Anyways, so today and Mousy Files, what's going on? 186 Element, good to see you. Also, we're removing some snails. Are you smashing them, or are you removing them truly? Because I mean, I was scraping the glass the other day, and all of a sudden, I just like turned the scraper around and all my little shrimp and little guppies and stuff all started coming and picking at it, and I was like, okay, all right. They need some food, but also clearly they'll take care of these snails. So I smashed a few snails that way, and you get your water hardness up a little bit, and there's all that. Moteb B, what's going on? Team Pretzel Force. Hello. And also we got a new member, Mousy Files. Thank you so much for becoming a member. We got the first new member of the day. What does he win? What does he win? You can have this used thing of chapstick that literally doesn't come above the flat rim. Why am I keeping it? Because when I get really desperate, I might do this and go. In fact, that's what I'm going to try to do. It might have a little bit. All right, now it's yours. No, so you can go to the playlists, and there will now be extra playlists under the audio and podcast click. There's like over 200 episodes that, in that sense, that they are, I add new things to it. Like I should probably add the new killifish video to it, for instance, that just I put out. That was just like a video that I had made originally to be a long form short, which sounds like such a dumb comment, but of course, YouTube is now, they're doing some things where like you can have shorts that are over 3 minutes, but you can't monetize them and you can't use clips. The whole part of shorts that I was actually like excited about like interacting with is that you can use a clip from a documentary or something. And so I was excited that I could show some phenomena like fish jumping all at once out of the water or flying carp in, a river, and talk about then the subject right after showing a clip. And that is copyright infringement if it's over 3 minutes. If it's under 3 minutes, it's fine. I found out the hard way, and there was no warning or anything. Just the other day, they took it down and they gave me another copyright warning. So I got 90 days in copyright jail again, which I've gotten a few times. It falls off after like 8 months or something. But still, it's kind of crappy that they never like sent a memo that was like, this is how it works now. And it was my fault in that I uploaded it to Instagram and Facebook, which I don't usually do actually. And I uploaded the short there. It was like 4.5 or 5 minutes long. And then I uploaded it here, and it was not done processing was the term, which sometimes takes like an hour and other times takes like half the day. usually it takes like no more than an hour. And so usually it'll say, do you want to monetize it? Yes or no. And it doesn't give you the option to monetize it until it's processed it. Well, I just said, go public, monetize it or whatever. Cause shorts, I usually make like, I don't know, $1 to $3 on a short in its lifespan if it gets 10,000 or 20,000 views. And apparently, when you do that, the AI hasn't scanned the whole video yet for copyright things. And usually it wouldn't have been a problem. But I used a clip that's from an old BBC documentary, and BBC apparently is like Disney, NFL, ESPN. There's these like kind of known, the Eagles, there's these known groups that just like love to put cease and desist copyright claims. And even though there's a whole argument for like, this is educational and this is, commentary, this is educational, creative commentary in context. And I didn't have sound from the episode even. Which apparently was David Attenborough's voice, which I didn't even know. I can see some comments. Yes, I see comments from both. I don't see them all. If you say at FISHTORY, I have a pretty darn good chance of seeing them all. But sometimes I still miss them. But yeah. So anyway, so I just wanted to talk about that real quick because there was like, it wasn't that I wasn't making y'all stuff. I actually had 3 episodes in the can that I was excited about. That I was excited about in the concept of that we were going to get to see some really cool scenes. And like one was going to be fish jumping out of the water, and it was going to be like how many fish actually take out humans every year in weird ways, like fishing accidents and stuff. And those flying carp, the jumping Asiatic and Eurasian carps, they take out like 8 Americans on average in some sort of way, you can say. And usually it's like 1 to 3 that it's like directly a guy in a boat standing there at the motor and bang, gets hit and flies out. But there have been a few that have been hit and with such force that, something crazy happened and just like a piece hit him somewhere in the neck or the head. Anyways, the video is not getting made anyways, but the only one that got to keep existing out of the group of the 3 videos was the killifish one on that. And then there's another one on killifish and an aging gene that my friend, a great community member, Daniel, sent me from the Netherlands. And really interesting thing there too, where they figured out, speaking of earlier, we were just talking about how I was just talking at you. Sorry, guys. I was talking at you about how it's weird that we breathe oxygen, even though all life evolved underwater, and we evolved to breathe the oxygen out of the water. So dissolved oxygen out of the water, even though we're under the water. And that's because we had 1 billion years of algae, bacteria, cyanobacteria, mostly cyanobacteria, and then later algae that were just floating in the oceans and lakes and things of the world and on wet surfaces, and making just tons and tons and tons of oxygen. Before that, our atmosphere was like all nitrogen and had a bunch of other things: hydrogen, nitrogen, helium. The helium all floats away, unfortunately. But the nitrogen, like I was saying, is like, ironically, the useless one. Yet our bodies, in like every organism on Earth, use oxygen. Yet oxygen is also what causes cell death in almost every organism on Earth. Like oxygen exposure or oxidation is what like causes decay and errors in cell, birth and cell aging. And so it's why people are obsessed with antioxidants and all these things like that. But what is interesting to me is that like we can rely on something like oxygen every moment that we need to breathe and to keep our heart and everything, these things going. And yet like the fact that our red blood cells are red is because of the iron in the hemoglobin in them. And that's how we carry oxygen, is literally by rusting the cells in our blood and then moving it around our body. And then we basically rip the rust off those cells, or they give it up, and we take the oxygen piece of that chemical equation. And in our bodies, we have these chemical factories doing crazy things like that, like ripping oxygen away from iron. So iron oxide gets turned into things. Now, there's also in like horseshoe crabs, for instance, I think it's copper that they use, but there's a few others too. Out there, there's a few really weird oddball organisms that are extremophiles that like, you know, exist off sulfur and have other things. But copper and iron, and there's, I think, is it nickel and one other one, are, in theory, they could be blood types. But yeah, anyways, the wild part though, and the thing that a lot of people will say, like, oh, you know, it shows that there is a perfect, you know, the creator being created everything perfect the way it's supposed to be in one go. And I always think like, yeah, okay, like then why does oxygen kill every cell? You know, and so overtly overstocked Oscar, what is going on? We got some fish punks in the house. Yeah, we are complex beings, you know, oftentimes. Exactly. You know, what you need to survive is also what kills you in different amounts. You know, water, same thing. You can drown or you can dehydrate. It's very interesting. Fish Dad, what's going on? Mousy Files, what's going on? Also, JP Jeffries, what's going on? Testing 1, 2, 3. I see you. I see you. And can you tell us? So somebody wants to know here. And Cinnamon Girl, I see you. I love that song. I wanna live with the Cinnamon Girl. I'm spending the rest of my life with my Cinnamon Girl. Let's see here. Can you tell us how red photosynthetic bacteria can be used as the hobby as a quick start? I can't. I don't know anything about that. I am sorry. So I know about photosynthesis A, B, and C, or sometimes called 1, 2, 4. Those are the common ones. There's 4 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, but I think 1, 2, and 4 are the ones that are like common enough that they happen really and not theoretically. But I don't know enough about that, and that's something that I could. It's something we could talk about if I read up on it. But I don't know anything about it in application to the hobby, other than I do know that, you know, cyanobacteria and photosynthetic bacteria, they exist, but a lot of times the red photosynthetic bacteria exists in a completely different lineage. Like, and a lot of times photosynthetic bacteria is really fascinating in that it's that green slimy stuff or blue slimy stuff. Well, the bluish green versus like the dark green or the yellowy green, those have different styles of using light, and they actually use different bits of the chemical spectrum. And so the red light chemical spectrum versus the blue light chemical spectrum, it's different wavelengths of light. And just like leaves turn color to, one, protect themselves, but also to utilize different bits of light, because coming in at a more oblique angle in the autumn, the leaves can utilize that less intense sun, and they can basically have a sunscreen of red colorations and things filtering out the wavelengths that they're no longer going to need. and then just the green light will go through and get to the tissue that wants to use it, whereas it's cooking in the day when it's like just strong bright white light overhead at like 6,500 Kelvin. But anyways, I will look into that, and it will be interesting to find out what is out there about it, in that I have never heard anything about like cycling an aquarium with it. I mean, I know that it's going to take out some of the nitrates, nitrites, but it's not at all anywhere as comprehensive as plants in taking out organic debris, compounds, like organic compounds in general, things like complex carbon, organic or volatile organics that like a lot of small organisms, such as isopods or little rotifers and amoebas and nematodes and things like that, they're going to actually eat a lot of this like rotting, nasty stuff. When you look at it, when you look at a leaf and you see it kind of falling apart in your tank, and it's like it looks all like wrinkled and like curling, and like it looks tattered, and it's fallen off the plant, and now it's kind of like turning into mold. That is not good stuff in your tank. A lot of people think that just falls to the ground and it's good mold, and it's not. It has to be broken down by little organisms, ideally mid-level trophic organisms, shrimp, snails, fish that like eating stuff like that, and then it's going to get broken down by them, pooped out, and then there's some percentage of nutrients that's still not absorbed into the fish or into the snail, and so then that amount, then the isopods come in, and then the snails can come in again, for that matter, and so can the shrimp. But they can keep going and sorting through for nutrients, and actually some of them can reabsorb several times, and a lot of the different microcrustaceans and things now we're learning have bacteria in their stomach, and they take on different tasks depending on what environment they're in. So if you've got a tank where you've got a ton of or let's say scuds, let's say Gomeris. You got a bunch of Gomeris, like Acellus, or we'll just say Gomeris aquaticus. Okay, so you got a bunch of those, and they're eating, and they may usually like to eat rotting leaves. And they don't like eating live leaves, because breaking down the cellulose, that cell walls, and the enzymes that requires and stuff, or even just the energy of chewing, they didn't evolve to do that. That's not what they do unless they're like desperate. Instead, they eat like a green smoothie of the chemicals breaking down, but they got to get just at the right time, because if you start, you're going to start with things like acids, like organic acids, tannic acids, things like chlorophyll, and things like cellulose, like I just said. But then you're going to start breaking down into simpler and simpler compounds, and so a lot of organisms can eat vitamins, like straight up elements that they need, but also a lot can't. Just like my example with oxygen, like it's in the atmosphere, yet nitrogen and oxygen, we all need those things to build an organism. Plants need those things, yet we have to get them from nitrogen fixing organisms, and those have to give them to plants, and then the plants have to give us the nitrogen in that usable form, or we have to eat something that ate a plant that got it in a usable form. It's pretty fascinating, because like oyster mushrooms, they actually are a fascinating fungi in that they don't get their nitrogen like some mushrooms would do from bacteria, from a mycorrhizal relationship. They actually get it from they kill nematodes. So just like I was talking about, these little planaria, like little worms, little flatworms that are very small in our aquariums, they're all over all over the world, all over the environment, probably on your clothing, in your hair, whatever. You probably have a couple nematodes hanging out right around you right now. Well, they are in there and they are then, you know, getting eaten. And the mushroom, in the case of oyster mushrooms, sends out this like stinger, stunning chemical and traps them. And as they decay and turn to goo, they ferment with yeast in the atmosphere. And they actually eat that gooey fermented yeast of nematode. And that's how they get their nitrogen, which is like so bizarre, but they're technically like like kind of like a Venus flytrap. Like they're getting nutrients from a pretty wild way. So there are exceptions to a lot of stuff in these what do you call it? Examples of like the red spectrum photosynthetic bacteria that you were asking about. You know, I don't think that you're gonna have one that it's not tailored at scale to work as something that processes light or food or nutrients or organics or anything in a useful way. Can it exist and can you get it to flourish? Yes. I don't know about what extreme you have to go to or what media you would have to build it or sump or something to give it enough surface area and also give it enough access to light that it could actually cycle a meaningful amount of aquarium water. That's what I'm going to say for now. But if you know more about it, you can educate me, and I'm going to Google it as long as I remember. Dread Jim, what's going on? Fourth live that you've been able to catch in the past few months. Right on. Well, I dig it because I've been, hey, Dagmar, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. And Kengwin, hope you're doing well as well. And yes, there are 2 streams going. If you want to be landscape mode, feel free to be on your phone or whatever and do that. Or if you think that's annoying as all hell, like I do, then you can be in the other mode. You can be in this great wide format here, and you can you people on my phone or on horizontal mode that I'm looking at here, you can see me right now, but the other people, they can see me here. They can see me. They can see me fully here. They can see me fully here. It's a party over here in landscape zone. But you know, for each their own. And if I don't have like graphics that I wanted to show off and was like, bang, this is what I want to show you guys today, then I don't have a major thing. Let's see, Loretta Jackson, fishery. I've seen photosynthetic bacteria for sale as fry food. Oh, totally. So you can feed fish photosynthetic bacteria. I mean, spirulina is photosynthetic cyanobacteria. Spirulina is like a miracle, and so is chlorella. That's another incredible high nutrition. And both are high protein. I mean, duckweed is too. That's not a that's not a that one's not an algae or a cyanobacteria, but it is a something that we think of as nuisancey or maybe not a food source that is in fact like ground up and put into food and absolutely lovely. If you don't like the mode you're in, I think you just go back. Hey, Critter Style, welcome. And Greg Guppy Guy, good to see you as well. Always good to see you. Yeah, when if you don't like the way it's laid out, I think you can either go to my channel, and there should be 2 streams under like live. If you go to like content, videos, lives, I think under lives there's 2 options, and they both have the same thumbnail probably, but you got to pick one that's the one that doesn't have the phone. Does this have the little, oh, it doesn't show up when I click it on the screen, dang it. But when I click these names, like this one's horizontal, or I mean this one's landscape, whereas Dagmar's is horizontal. So I see a little phone next to the people who have it that way. But anyways, oh yeah, you got me on the big screen, Crystal. There's a way to do it. Yeah, feeding duckweed to all the birds. That's the way to do it. It's the way ducks eat it. It's like 48 to 54% protein, depending on the strain. It's pretty wild. So guys, I want to talk to you about something though. As soon as I chug my Mr. Pibb got new marketing. They were out of Dr. Pepper again at the store, and they had Mr. Pibb. Well, this is the new label, and they changed it all like overnight or whatever. And it says, what does it say now? It says something else on the box that's annoying. Kickin' cherry soda with attitude. I thought that was like a type of Mr. Pibb, and it was gonna like hurt me. Like maybe it had, I don't know, heartburn in a can or some sort of caffeinated concoction or kratom or cockatoos in it. But no, it's just the original formulation that they're trying to make seem cool with retro art from circa the movie Train Spotting, I guess. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But anyways, it's still the same. Tastes fine. Mortis, what's going on? Good to see you. So I was gonna say though, we're gonna talk about the F words. Now that we're a good half hour into this, let's talk about some F words. Let's talk about what the F is going on here. And my shame, you guys. So I gotta be honest with you. I have started. Do I tell you guys the whole truth, or do I save this for people who are members who aren't going to yell at me, or will yell at me less? Yes, I do need to give up soda pops, but I am not going to just yet. I get a soda every time I stream, and I get one a day for when I complete like a video or something. That's my like dessert, and I'm sorry, that's how I'm gonna roll for a while, especially since I'm nowhere near like diabetic or anything like that. As far as like blood sugar levels and all that, I am retaining water though because of all the prednisone and stuff they have me on. But that's a whole other story, autoimmune story. But yes, I do need to cut back. Like everyone knows that. Pop's pretty much terrible for you. Anyways, back to the failure. So I'm going to tell you guys the truth here. And, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm some martyr who I'm going to tell you the truth. And everyone else lies to you. No one tells you the truth on YouTube. No, that's not the case. A lot of people are good YouTubers. I think MD made a video where he recently kind of discussed, the nature tanks and stuff. And I think he left some stuff out, but like nothing nefarious. I think, it was a good video. And, keeping fish simple, or fish keeping simple. I always mess his channel name up. Anyways, there's a number of folks who've come out lately with like videos like, I screwed everything up, or this is the worst I screwed up, or I killed half of these or that. And Joey King of DIY just did a video that was like that. I didn't really watch it. I'm guessing he either is lying or he freaking had loose stray voltage in his aquarium and doesn't have an ink bird, even though he spends tens of thousands of dollars on his aquarium and makes $1 million plus on YouTube a year, or used to anyways, because he carried his tax stub around to events and used to show it to other YouTubers to prove that he made just barely over $1 million a couple years. Which good for him. Sorry, I'm venting a little, guys. All right, back to stop with the negativity, Alex. Okay, so back to the negativity focused on me. So I have the opportunity of a lifetime. And I got all that cool gear from ADA and AFA. Aqua Design Amano in Japan, in contact with me through AFA in San Francisco. I was invited twice now to go down there, to once with Josh Sims, once with who was it? Takiro Tanaka. ADA, like guys that trained under Amano for multiple years and that are now like at the Japan Amano store or at the Malaysia, you know, like big figureheads in aquascaping. They've all been ranked in like the top 5 in the world. Stuff that I have no business being around. Okay, just like, I think the thing is, I am a YouTuber who respects aquascaping, but I'm not just an aquascaping YouTuber, and so I'm assuming that perhaps some of that idea was somebody wanted to break out of course, fellow aquascaping YouTubers that are good at that will show you how to aquascape, right? They'll show you how to do those things. But I think they're kind of hoping that maybe I would talk about like the science of, you know, this is what goes into this product as an aquascaping product. And when we were debating what kind of tank I wanted to build, they basically said, you do you, right? Okay. Like whatever you like doing, do, but do it with our stuff. And when I started thinking about that, I thought about even just stuff like, and guys, I have overthought this to the point where it's paralyzing. There's also been the issue of my health and the fact that lifting a 40-pound bag of dirt or aqua soil, like even just getting it into the thing and not like having it come out with force to the point where like it flies everywhere and then I have to like brush it around and like it crumbles and dust and it's not as easy as it used to be. It's not like impossible for me and I can get help, but it has brought me to my breaking point several times. And let me tell you the truth about it. Right now, that tank is empty again. I've started that tank twice. Yeah. I didn't have all the parts until Christmas, so I will say that. But I have started that tank and I have filmed a video of this is how you add the substrate. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to watch their video again and I'm going to, you know, I need to do this the ADA way because like one, they said they want it the Alex way, but I don't want to misrepresent their products, right? So if they have a product that's for X and I'm using it for Y and then I complain in my review that, hey, this sucks at Y, they're going to be like, yeah, because it's for X. And so I'm going to admit to you guys how dumb I feel about the first. I haven't even told them this yet. They know that I was playing with plants in my other tanks with CO2 and without CO2 and with medium CO2. So I had 3 different tanks going, and you guys have seen those off and on. I posted pictures and things of which plants I want to try to use. And I've been using tissue cultures. I've been growing out plants that I've had for years that have been in low-tech tanks and growing them out in super high light and in good, tank conditions and getting these just beautiful plants. And we can go look at those anytime. We can go, check out the difference it makes high tech versus low tech with like something like a Rotala mini butterfly or like a purple Rotala, like in a big community tank, even with a good light on it, unless that is like right above it and it's growing to the surface and you got all the right CO2 and ferts and stuff, you're not going to get all those colors and stuff. You might get a crown that looks pretty, but you're just not going to get the color. Usually until you're right on the edge of getting the algae and other stuff that kind of comes with it. But I've got all the plants now, like I've got which ones I want to use. And I literally have enough now that I have a palette of plants that I could make an aquarium 10 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet width, right? So there's too many plant options. For me, for my idea, it was to make a flame growing out of stone and wood, black forest wood, that I aged, and I've also pre-sunk. So I was doing all that starting all the way back in November. I still have a bucket in the fish room of water that I add hydrogen peroxide to every once in a while and keep it dark, and scrub off anything that was on there because it was covered in moss and algae at one point. But it's a really cool, it looks structurally like a flame kind of, or like a twisted form, and I kind of want that to be the center. And then I want like mayaca or vals and like very narrow plants that are very with very fine detailed leaves to be going up it. And then ideally at first I was like, well, I want red around the bottom to look like, you know, coals and embers. And I want like black, like bucephalandras that with that iridescent red on them to look like embers burning on the wood. So let me just get to the chase here. Hey, Jesus, what's going on? So, you know, a big part of it is I looked up to this brand and I couldn't afford it ever, really. I mean, I've had a 60p tank from UNS, and I've even bought an 80A tank when I worked as an apprentice doing my Iwagumi scapes. I was looking through my phone and you know, I've been doing a lot of reflecting in my life lately. I don't know if it's just like that's what happens when you get near 40. Realize, like in my case, I realize I'm not having kids. I realize I've got some health problems that are going to be with me for life, and I realize like I need to reassess how I can leave the world better than when I got here, you know. And it's been a long process, you know, 5-6 years or something. Really, since the lightning, that was the first thing where I was like, wow, I might not be here. Shouldn't take that for granted. And then I ever since this incredible community and this channel, you guys allow me to do things like come to clubs and talk, tie in archaeology with human brain size and what that has to do with humans eating freshwater shellfish and freshwater fish, and learning to make fishing poles, fishing nets, spears, learning to work rocks. And as our brain needed to get bigger so that it could understand spatial and symbolic reasoning, as well as projected planning, like imagining things before they're even done and then executing on that plan, that takes a lot of brain power and protein, and we weren't getting enough of it. So fire and the freshwater fish, a lot of early researchers thought that it was going to be us scavenging dead animals. But now they're thinking that like eating freshwater mussels, Lake Tanganyika, you know, Lake Victoria, just eating that stuff off the riverbeds and the lakes of the Rift area of Africa. That's probably how Lucy, how, you know, Heidelbergensis and you know, Homo naledi, all these ancestors and hominids, that's how we got to be Homo sapien or Homo erectus, and then Homo sapien and Neanderthalensis and Homo Denisovan. And I've been able to go places and talk about that and the connections, right? And now it's like all feels like it's kind of coming back. These places I went and visited when I was speaking in Sacramento, and I just found a video. Yeah, thank goodness we have Jack in the Box now. And yes, U.S. Marine Corps, I know I'm overthinking it. The 40 thing is real. I know. And it's not like 40's like old. I just have looked in the mirror for my whole life and been like, 40, I said forever from now. I don't have to worry about that. And then you like start gaining some weight, and you know, things ache in a different way. You know, I'm like, I still can't even grow a super good, like I can't even grow a super thick beard. I'm not gonna be 40. uh yeah, I guess I just never will. But guys, I found this and I want to see if I can share it with you. I know the camera's terrible, so I'm gonna make sure I can get it. Like, I'm not gonna share it unless I can get it to focus right. But I found a video where everything stopped for me, and it scared me to death because it also, let's be real here, this is getting really personal. This might be the most personal thing I've ever shared on the channel, honestly. When I was supposed to be in Florida speaking at Pasco County Fish Club, and then I was supposed to be speaking at the Space Coast, and then I was supposed to be speaking in Jacksonville and Miami. There's a total of 5 places I was supposed to speak, okay? And I had taken 3 weeks to kind of bounce between them, and there were a couple meetings midweek, and then each of 3 weekends there were meetings. And 2 days into my stay there, I went and stayed with somebody who is a he's kind of known to be a party animal. He's a lawyer, and he married my wife and I, and he's older than me. He's almost 60 now, and he's an incredible guy. I love him. He's he's like a brother to me, but he likes to go out and have a good time. And it was very, very hot there. It was like 97 or 98. And I know that I have a problem getting dehydrated. Also, I know that I can't drink, or I shouldn't drink. It's something I stopped going on 18 years ago, and I still haven't like backslid, other than, I don't know, 11 years ago or something. There was one time. But other than that, like, I haven't had more than just a sip of champagne at our wedding, and, you know, a sip of a beer when somebody like was like, oh, look, I brewed something, and I, you know, whatever. And everyone's like watching and like, oh, he did it. But, it's just a thing that I got out of my life on my 21st birthday. Instead of going to the bars, I got sober. So there's that piece of things. And I was supposed to go to those clubs and do talks. And I have a different talk lined up for every single club, 5 different talks. And I thought, this is how I'm going to really make, this is how I'm going to make a living with fish. Is I've never given the same talk twice, and I give different versions. Even if it's the same theme talk, I'll change 20 or 30% just from interesting stuff I've gleaned in a year or two since the last time I gave the talk. And I was in Pasco County, so I was down with Grant and Shelby, and we had gone collecting fish the night before. We were out very late. There was a thunderstorm. Yes, I know I've been hit by lightning. Yes, everybody's like looking at me and is like, you're sure we should be out here? I'm like, yeah, it's like really far away. Don't worry. And we go back. I go back to my buddy's house, who I'm staying with, who married my wife and I. And in the morning, I woke up and I stayed up too late. The talk wasn't until 11 the next morning, but I stayed up late. I stayed up till like 1 or 2. And I was so hot and I couldn't cool down, and I just felt dizzy and off. And I didn't really know what was, I don't know. I didn't know what the problem was. I recorded this video for you guys, and I found it 2 days ago, and I didn't know it existed. For one, I don't remember recording it, but it's the day I ended up on life support in Florida. And let me tell you, the worst part about being on life support in Florida And hey, Jesus, actually, that's a really, really, it's a really good thing that you just said. And I will shout out that to any guy who's feeling really low on energy and stuff. I have an autoimmune condition, but yes, my T levels were at 127. So my T levels were just crap, like lower than female T levels can be. But anyways, so I agree. Yeah, my testosterone was off, and that was one thing they were looking at. And for a while, they couldn't figure out what was wrong, and that was what was so frustrating. But here, let me show you guys. And this is, I weighed 60 pounds less, and I still had swelling in my legs. And let's see if we can get this to focus. Yeah, okay, we can get it to focus, but we're gonna probably have to put the microphone closer over here. Turn this up a little bit. This is a recording. And not even a half an hour after this recording, I had caught some jewel cichlids in the morning. Before I even went to go do my talk, I decided I was going to go collect fish because I am an idiot, I guess. No, I'm just obsessed with Florida. I love it down there. And I was on my way to the talk. It was a 20-minute drive and there was a ditch. So I got out and I went to go collect. I'm literally on my way to go to this meeting. And this is what I recorded for you guys on the channel. And I didn't remember that I recorded this, and I just found this. So I guess I'll, let's see if we can get it to play. I promise this is a really intense video. Why is that? Well, because I'm a wimp, and it's really hot. It's 91 degrees, at least in the sun. So, I hope you like this one. So that's the, sorry guys. I promise this is a really intense. That was really loud probably. But that was the last thing I really remember. Short time after that, I got out of the car and I just folded in half as I stood up. My potassium was at 1. I mean, I was in a risk of dying, and they had to put me in the ICU. And I did not go into a waiting room. By dumb luck, the guy I was staying with, Greg, who ironically saved my life, he saw me laid out on the side of the road on the way to where he was going to meet and watch the Pasco Fish Club watch me talk, even though he's not even into fish. He doesn't even have a fish tank, but he's a good dude. And he saw me there and saw my car at the creek where he knew I had, like, not that far, a mile from his house. He knew I had been looking for fish there every time I've come down there. And I got out of the car and collapsed on the side away from the street. So I don't like the ground in Florida. There's fire ants. There's all sorts of nasty crap everywhere. And I got bit by fire ants. I got bit by, and it didn't even faze me. I mean, they were biting my face. They were biting my, they were crawling on me. And he got out and he saw me there just, sweating and all beet red. I'd turned kind of a beet red and mumbling. And we drove back towards the hospital. He called 911. He's asking what to do. Like, can they come pick me up? Blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, his roommate's like, just take him to the damn hospital. And they're kind of in a, like, not rural part of the state, but not a city. It's like there's some strip malls and stuff, but there's not a good hospital. That's for sure. And we get in there, and I had been wearing tie-dye that day on a hoodie. And I had water with me. I had all these things with me, but everybody knows around me that I had a history of either drinking or using substances. And nobody knew for sure what was wrong with me, how I could just drop. Like, I was coherent. Even in that video, I feel like I'm fairly coherent. And 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, I'm on the ground and I can't tell you who the president is or what year it is or my name. And apparently I was very polite and like respectful and saying please and thank you and like, oh, I'm okay and blah, blah, blah. But I was just so messed up. And again, my fever got to 105 or 106 that day. And they said at first they thought it was heat stroke, and then they thought it was a complication with my lupus. Well, in rural Florida, if you are talking to yourself and you are in tie-dye, you are a drug addict. So I got handcuffed to the bed. And what did I do when I came back after some IV fluids and antibiotics? And by the way, I had a septic shock yet again, and this is the first time I'd ever had it. And we learned this long after the fact. At the time, they told me that I had a psychotic breakdown due to drugs. And they called my wife and told her that. My loving wife, who has stood by me and believed me and trusted me, and I've always been really open with, but who she had been with somebody in a long-term relationship of like a decade, who was a dirtbag, who lied to her about everything and had a secret habit and secret girlfriends on the side. And it was just terrible, abusive kind of stuff. And she got away from that. And it was hard for her, you know? And when we got together, it's something that I knew she was having to work on, even just trusting me, like going out of town for a week and a half with a bunch of guys who were going to go to a rave one night and then go into the swamp for 2 days. Like, how are you not going to drink with the hillbilly people who are, you know, going noodling, showing you where the catfish are, and then you're coming back to see a concert in one of the like, you know, it was a lot of trust for I mean, we've been together for we've been married 6 years at that point, but still it was hard for her. Well, she gets called, and then she gets told that I am having a mental breakdown from excited delirium from methamphetamine. Watch this now this stream is not going to be monetized. Or that maybe I had a schizophrenic breakdown and I'd been drinking or on some sort of bath salt. And looking back at this, it makes me wonder, because like that guy who bit that other guy's face in Florida, he wasn't on bath salts. He had a schizophrenic breakdown, and he had excited delirium due to a fever from sepsis. He was also schizophrenic. I'm not schizophrenic, by the way. And when they got the blood test back, by the time my wife flew there in the morning, they knew I had no drugs in my goddamn system. And so then they changed their tune and said that I had heat stroke and pneumonia from some sort of respiratory infection that had been lingering. They had chained me to a bed, and they had put me with a guard 24/7. This guy that was like 6'6", who wouldn't let me leave, you know, the bed to go to the bathroom or anything. He'd bring me like a bedpan, and I'm sweating through my sheets. I'm fighting this stuff. I'm having diarrhea. I'm laying in my own filth for hours, and I'm crying to this guy, like, why are you guys doing this? Like, what is going on? And all I see on the whiteboard behind him, and he taps on it with a freaking dry erase pen, is drug seeker. And below that, it says 5-day 5150 ? Now, they could have put me in a 5-day mental hold, because I was being aggro. I was being like, I want to talk to a lawyer. The guy who brought me to that hospital, who brought me to the ER, that they took out of my room and they kept me away from everyone until my wife flew from Seattle to Florida. She didn't know what was going on, and she's being told by a doctor that if I don't change the way I live, my organs are failing and I will be dead in a matter of months. And that I need to turn my life around, get into rehab, and I'm lucky that I'm not arrested. And they're still going to do a psych eval in the morning and decide, and I still have 103 temp at this point, whether or not they're going to put me in a mental hold. And in Florida, they can put you in a what's called like a safe room where you can't hurt yourself. You're kind of in like either a straight jacket or what they call a turtle suit. And it's a room with like a place to go to the bathroom and a bucket or something. And then everything's padded. I did not know how insane that could get, right? Because I finally had enough mental clarity to say, shit, I'm supposed to be talking to a fish club. Well, at this point, it had been 2 days. So it's Sunday, and I was supposed to be talking, it's Monday morning, and I'm supposed to be talking Saturday morning. And I thought it was still just later Sunday, and that maybe it was like 4 p.m. or something. Like, that's how confused I still was. So I was not in the right state of mind. I know that. But I also have blood tests with the gas reflux panel, which is like they give you the test where you pee in a cup or whatever. They take your pee and stuff and they can test for things. That's not an accurate test. It's not a very good test. It gives them a rough idea of if you're on something, and a lot of it. It can tell them that with about 12 to 15 substances, but it's not going to tell them like if you're on some obscure thing or psychedelics, or like they can't test any of that stuff with those tests. It's like a $2,000 overnight test, generally speaking. Sometimes they can get it quicker, but at this place, they had to ship it to Tampa to get it tested. And so it was not until, I guess, 24 or 30 hours into me being in the hospital that they had my blood back and they had the answer. Well, the doctor did not change any of the procedures or anything about that. And they also didn't give me my prednisone. They didn't give me an anti-anxiety, antidepressant medication. I take Celexa or paroxetine is what it's called, actually, Paxil, which is an SSRI. And I, at the time, had been on it for about a year. So they took me off all that stuff suddenly. And they said, we need to hold you here. We're not going to put you in the mental health cell because your wife's here. So we're going to hold you one more night. And if you can behave yourself, we're going to leave you handcuffed. But if you can behave yourself, then we'll talk about like where we can go from here. Well, my wife was crying and she didn't know what to do. She had the doctor walking her down the hall saying, your husband is his body's failing him. And it's because of his drug use that he's been hiding from you. And the cops were even worse to her. The cops in rural Florida were like, you know, he's abusive, probably. Who knows, he's been stealing to fund his habits, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I never shared any of this with you because I was going to sue them. They're being sued for over 400 counts of rape. Right now, it's public. That same hospital chain allowed people, including security guards, to take videos and throw them away after. The chain of custody went security, the head of HR, or not HR, but like public relations, and then to the cop downstairs who's stationed at the hospital. And damn straight, my buddy is litigating on that case with about 40 other lawyers instead of including, I mean, it's billions of dollars. I'm not in that lawsuit, but I just wanted to mention that, like, Florida hospitals, if you live in Florida, know your rights and know in any state you're in what kind of hold they can put on you for what. Because they wouldn't give my wife and I the printout of my toxicity report, my toxicology report, until she demanded it and was like, I'm going to call, and she called our friend who was a lawyer, and he came down and he's like, you better give us that goddamn report right now. And right there, they said, yeah, sure, no problem. Hold on. So, sorry. They get it clean of everything. And my wife just looks at me and she just starts bawling and she's like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know why I didn't trust you. Like, you know, I was so tired. I flew across the country. I didn't sleep last night. You know, she was kind of waiting to hear how bad it was. And then when it was like, he's in the ICU, you know, that's before my leg stuff, guys. So this was back 2 summers ago. So then after that, 6 months, 7 months pass, and I went to Sacramento in March or April for Findig. And I didn't do much traveling in between because I was still kind of fragile with autoimmune issues and also trying to get my testosterone and my blood, like my electrolytes back into balance because they were so far off after such severe illness and fever and stuff, that there were some long-term issues, as well as my kidney and liver were at like 5 to 10% failure each because of when you get that sick, your liver, your organs can start failing, especially when it's an infection in your lungs that goes to your blood. Yeah, so we my wife at the time, still not 100% sure, she signs me out of the hospital. And I couldn't officially at that point sign myself out against medical orders because they said I wasn't like competent, but she could be. So with both of us, we got out of there, and it was very pertinent. We were told by my friend who was the lawyer that we did that before they came and gave me a 5150 evaluation, because that's when they could hold me for another 5 days, and they could also stop me from seeing my family during that time. And this was now a total of 2.5 years ago. So not last summer, the summer before, if that makes sense. So then we go to Sacramento. I get through Sacramento, but I am sweating and I am tired. I'm having the time of my life. I meet the guys at AFA down in there. I see Ivan, and I, yeah, she probably did save my life, 100%. And the name of the chain of hospitals, it's called Spring Hill, Oak Hill. Hold on, let me get the exact name right, because F them, and I didn't sue them. I didn't sign an NDA, so I can say whatever I want. But the reason I didn't do any of that is because like I had maybe $2,000 in speaking engagements, travel funds, and stuff that I could have claimed as like missed. But then pain and suffering with a multi-billion-dollar hospital like that, it would then go into the class lawsuit that was going on, and those things can take up to 10 years easily with these multi-billion-dollar corporation hospitals. And that's what my buddy does, is he goes up against these, and he will work on cases for 5 to 10 years. And a lot of times all the plaintiffs that filed are dead, like all the original ones. And he only has the second and third waves, and he has to bring their family the money because they drag it out so long. It's so sad. But anyways, let me see here. Oak Hill Hospital in Florida. So it's technically make sure. I don't want to call. Yeah, so it's north of the town Spring Hill, and it's near the Weeki Wachee Springs, North Weeki Wachee, and it is HCA Florida Oak Hill Hospital, and it is Retina Group of Florida, I guess. I mean, that's what it's saying on here. And HCA Florida Oak Hill. And it's like the county hospital, or like the hospital there. Have I made a settlement now? No. Nope. Nothing. Not in the US. You sign a lot of stuff saying you're not going to. And then it becomes you have to take it. But I can't talk about it if I were to do that too. And I said that I'd rather talk about this and champion like people knowing how to handle this, because if I, for instance, even if I had been high with marijuana in my system from Washington State where it's legal, they said that is considered possession. You are the container in Florida under a 5150 violation. So they could hold you for breaking the law in that regard and being a harm to yourself. That could be the basis. So they literally were laughing, and they were like, yeah, well, we know with your tie-dye that you've been smoking the wacky tobacco. So, just because you're not on the hard stuff, don't think you're not out of the woods yet, Buster. And I'm like crying. I had never been so thoroughly. I've been pepper sprayed. I've been kicked. I've been, arrested for things. I'd been justifiably in the wrong and caught with illegal substances and things in the past and deserved bad treatment. But at this point in my life, it had been over 10 years since I'd done anything. And heat stroke really messes you up. So you just really are out of it, and you just can't defend yourself. And I feel for people who don't have family or some support network, and thank God I do. Yeah, they can read laws that way. They can't win in the long run. Yeah, that's just it. Is a lot of this stuff is blatantly illegal or blatantly already been talked about in court. And I know I said that we were going to be talking about the F's of aquariums, but I have to tell you guys, well, Mick, not even they didn't. It's not even that they didn't let Lara see my test results. They told her that I tested positive for fentanyl and for methamphetamine. And then they told her one and not the other. And she said, wait, which one is it? And they said, we'll have to look at the chart. But he's been living a rough lifestyle. And then she's like, no, he hasn't. And they're like, you need to know, like, something's been going on behind your back with your husband, basically. And I didn't know any of this at the time. I'm pretty out of it. But literally that day, I started coming to. But also because of the dehydration, because of the fluids, I'm having projectile vomiting, and I'm also having the other end too. And they would come change the sheets every 3 or 4 hours. And this cop guy who was guarding me, he was security, not a cop. There was a cop outside the room, though, guarding like 4 of us or something, like guarding a corner of the unit. And I wasn't allowed to go for a walk. Like, I got up and tried to walk at one point on the second day. And they were like, no, the cop like turned me around. And that was just because they uncuffed me from the bed to go to the bathroom. And I was just tried to go to poke my head out in the hall. But anyways, people think you can get rich from suing for all this stuff. It's not that easy. And literally this happened 2 years ago. It'd still be another 6 years if I don't win the case. So also, all the experts that are needed for a case like this, all the people who have to come back in and testify, you have to get the nurses that were there, the assistants that were there, the administrators from the hospital that are there, the HR people. You get all this stuff, and it costs a lot of money. It can cost $500,000 to $1.5 million, especially when they try to drown you in it, these billion-dollar companies. I mean, like insurance companies and hospital companies and retirement home care companies, you realize they went from making $40 million in profits as a company in the early 90s, like with United Healthcare as an example, to $157 billion now. This is not peanuts. This is a calculated choice of, we can treat people a certain way. I had insurance, which was incredibly fortunate. If I hadn't had insurance, I would have gotten 5150, thrown in that cell, left on a saline drip, chained, and put in a straitjacket. And if I lived, I lived. That's honestly what would have happened. And there's a good chance I wouldn't have lived. That's what my friend who's a lawyer, he said he's seen it happen, especially when they come from the jail or if they have a long history or a record. And a lot of times, it doesn't matter if the toxicology ended up coming back clean or whatever. They just say, well, yeah, I'm sure they were guilty of something. But anyways, my buddy has a good firm. You've probably seen the ads for his old partner. They're everywhere in the country. They are the biggest injury malpractice firm. They're that more and more, or is it more and more? That doesn't sound right now that I'm saying it. It doesn't matter. They do like they do. There's all sorts of ads on YouTube. YouTubers always have them. They are doing ads for them all the time. They're in a bunch of states and they have like thousands of lawyers. But yeah, they have a case going against them. My friend's law firm does as well. Theirs is about rape though. Which this is probably gonna even get this stream might get pulled down altogether now that we've said all these bad words. But anyways, so it's super frustrating, and all this is and if you don't have a lawyer in your pocket, yeah, you're up the creek without a paddle. Yeah, if you can't, I mean, the other thing is, if you make $100,000 a year in your job and you missed 2 months of work, you can get easily 3 to 5 times that in your like compensatory like earnings. But if they didn't do anything to wreck you, if the jury decides they didn't traumatize you enough, if it's a bunch of rural people in Florida that see my past, how I used to be a opiate user and I've been arrested for public intoxication as a teenager, and maybe the tests aren't that accurate or we lose results. All it takes then is them saying, we're only going to give you what you lost in pay in the time you were in the hospital, which was 2.5 days. And what you get emotionally is nothing because it's a wash. We couldn't decide. And that happens all the time. And then the lawsuit itself costed like $500,000 or $1 million and years of your time for that to happen, to get $7,000 or $4,000 or $2,000. Like it can go really bad. It can go amazing and you can win 20 million bucks or 100 million bucks. And sometimes that does happen, but that's just not the reality when you actually sit down and talk to lawyers about these big hospitals. About, do you guys have do you have cameras in each room? Oh, you don't have a camera in each room like you're supposed to for the 4-person rooms that are set up like that. Well, that's illegal. So you have a $2 million fine that they could give them across the state for doing that or whatever it ends up being. But there's nothing I get out of that. They just don't have a camera so that I don't have a story, right? So it's all testimony. So there's lots of things like that too, where they think about it. They figure out the risk of, well, yeah, but who cares? Lose that paperwork. And so my friend Greg Rowe, great attorney, he's brought down some crazy verdicts. He just got one for like 800 million with not just him. There's like 30 lawyers working on it, right? But he made good money off of it, and he got that because the people were so appalled that the administrators were emailing each other about women being assaulted, and the fact that it was their security guards who they didn't do a background check on, and some of them were children, like had offended against children and had felonies and were hired as night security guys. And in some cases, their HR form, like there's a picture in the evidence, like this is all public now. This was in the Tampa Times too, but or whatever their newspaper is called down there. But literally, they had an order of who you talk to, and it said like isolate victim, keep her away from the cops, take her phone, turn off the phone to the room. I mean, just totally illegal. And it's a company. You can't do anything to a company. They're not criminals. Criminals are people. Now, companies are people too, with rights and all that. But you can't throw a business in jail. In all of the EU, in all of the rest of the freaking Western world, this is a slam dunk. This is a no shit. This is wrong. And you can sue for these things. Now, America has some crazy frivolous lawsuits that go on. That's no joke. But we also have things like, for instance, here's one. I'm sorry, guys, I'm off the track of fish, but this is my life, and I'll get back to the fish part in a sec here. But did you know that if a utilities company, your electrical company in the United States, gets sued for instance, forming a cartel between private companies, because our electrical grid is not run by the government, it's run by private companies. Legally mandated, it has to be run by private companies. Texas is the only one who has a different setup, but they actually subcontract anyway, so it is also too. But if they get sued for jacking up rates, and there only being 3 companies to choose from, or in some areas no other company to choose from for electricity, right? So it's I had to get my electricity from them. They can then take the cost that they were charged and put it right back onto the customers and have their court fees paid that way. That is a legal law that was written. And in North Carolina, that law just got even crazier, where oh gosh, you guys have to, if you live in North Carolina, just go look at what your public utilities did. It's disgusting. Anyways, back to the F topic. After all this, my courage, my sense of self, my sense of independence was ruined. Like, my wife had to come and save me from the system as a white guy. That's not how America works. I'm a 40-year-old white guy, like, who wasn't doing anything wrong. I collapsed from heat, right? Yeah, I screwed up a few times in the past. I don't have any like felonies on my record now. When I was a minor, I got one, and it was like for possession of Adderall. which I never took. That was a bummer. I got caught. Somebody gave me their Ritalin, and some teacher saw them hand it to me, and I got caught with it in the school zone. Anyways, that was back when 1 in 3 boys were taking it, so I really didn't think it was a big deal. And the words out of my mouth when the cop came and got me out of class when I was 14 was, but yeah, it wasn't like I was like buying drugs, like, pot. And he's like, oh no, it's way worse than that. That's a misdemeanor. You're talking about, speed here. We're talking about like stuff bikers do. And you have an illegal prescription that's not yours, and it's in a school zone, and you're in a conspiracy with minors because there's more than 5 of you that all got these together. Wild. So that's the little that was when I was younger though. But we were dumb. We were so dumb. We deserved to get in trouble. We were being little stoner high school kids. But that I don't need to go that far back. But my point is, the cops, they never really that you can seal your past, like you can petition the court to seal or what do they call it, quash your past stuff. But like as soon as I go to an airport, they're like, arrested for Ritalin dealing, huh? So I know that certain agencies and certain people still see it, which is interesting. So anyways, so what I was going to say is that I get back from all the expunges and I mean, they weren't expunged in that like they wouldn't take them off my record, but they seal it and say it's your juvenile record. It doesn't have any effect on your adult record. And when they pull you over for like a minor thing, they can't see it. But if they did any sort of like dive into you for long time issues, they might find it. Interstate and federal stuff, they still have a record of all that. And beyond that, it was in the newspaper locally when I was 14 or 15. So should I not upgrade my aquarium space? Furlock, did you ask a question about aquarium space? Yeah, cops can still see it. They just can't use it against you. That's how it is in a lot of states. Overtly overstocked Oscar. That is like LRB. He passed his first fort check when he was 16 to Scientology. I didn't know that. That's funny. I haven't heard that story, and I've gone down and visited him. Actually, that trip I had just seen him the day before in Florida before I collapsed. And he was one of the people who was like, "I got you. I'll tell all the clubs that you're not going to make it." But my wife, she just got home just now, and literally, it was really hard on their relationship, in the sense that like we went down there and they tell her and make it sound like, that I'm the problem, that I brought this upon myself, that there's something wrong. And we didn't really know what the problem was fully until we got back. We did a sleep study. We went to a neurologist. We went to an endocrinologist. We went to all these different doctors. We found out my testosterone was back down in the gutter. All these things. And that is the story you guys don't know on this channel. That then proceeds to, I go to Sacramento. I see some incredible people like Tom Barr and Eric Thomas and Luke Wong, Nico Greer, Jan, awesome people. April, I see so many cool people that I meet from the channel, and also just people I've looked up to for years. Pam and Gary, Chin, and their cichlid house that I got to film, but the Hotel California was playing for a big chunk of it, so I'm going to need someone who knows their cichlid species really well someday to go back over and re-edit that one. But we did do some of it. And then, you know, that trip was like, it was me rising up out of what I felt was like failure, or me traveling on my own. And in the 2 years before that, I had been all over the South. I'd been down to California. I'd been out to Chicago. I'd been invited to the Amazon, to Dr. Mazeral's place. And I'd been invited to Colombia to meet up with Ivan Mikolji, and then we were going to take a speedboat to Venezuela. From there, like up the Amazon, and see what they were collecting and trading there, where they have all the exports. And it, you know, all these things I had going. I had 12 talks lined up, and I want to say that, like, one of the proudest moments of my life was when I was in bed in the hospital the second round, when I got septic shock again, high fever, then on life support. Well, then I wake up and I think, oh God, I thought I had gotten better. I thought I'd gone down to Sacramento. Now I step on a piece of glass, and they had to cut my leg open from my knee to my foot. And and I have, infection in my blood, infection in my organs, everywhere. Overnight, it snuck in because of my autoimmune issues. And then my autoimmune issues also likewise said, attack, and attacked all of it. And very nearly did me in within that night or two there. And Ivan is somebody who I set up a nonprofit with in 2019. We started setting that up, and then we got that up and running. We got it all financially sorted. We had to go through so many crazy hoops and approvals and like interviews and things. For that matter, like, I'm a good enough citizen that I can get approval to move money between Venezuela, a sanctioned country, with my nonprofit. And we could do stuff like that. We passed those background checks. I have the pre-approved flying thing. Like, so it's just such a weird world how things can change so quickly despite who's in charge and what little boxes they check off. But what I was going to say is, so then that all happened, and I met George Lowe, who is one of the brothers who owns Aquaforest, Aquaforest Aquaria, AFA. I don't know why that was stuck in my head. AFA, and that is the first, what you would call aquascaping shop in America. I thought he would maybe be annoyed that I was wanting to film there. I didn't call ahead of time. I called the day of, and I said, hey, can we come by? And also, you don't need to donate. That's very kind of you. People have, and I do appreciate it and all that. Yeah, it's an ADA dealer in California. AFA is. They also own Archaea, the brand Archaea, and they deal with UNS quite a bit, and a number of other brands that you've seen probably if you're into aquascaping in the US. I think Aquatop and Mr. Aqua, they're kind of all overlap with Boost Plant and AFA and then ADA also. ADA being the mother company in Japan that's its own thing. But over the years, they became the exclusive retailer of ADA and then took Canada, and then they wholesale to everyone in the US. Oftentimes, there are a few people in the US who still get directly from Japan if they have big enough orders, like monthly, like in Houston and things like that. But oh, I'd love to get a hold of one of the McColgy Oscars. I would so love one of those Oscars. They're so beautiful. I've been telling Ivan, hook me up with one of your fish that you got named after you. But yeah, so I was gonna say, let me bring this all back to the F's of fish and failure and fear. So I put the aqua soil in. All this stuff happened. I was in the hospital. Then I get the call from George, and he's like, "Yes, Aquaforest and ADA want to send you a whole kit for a 20-gallon setup with all the gear. You know, basically like 2.5, 3 grand worth of stuff. So far out of my league, but I have to be true to myself, and I can't say this is so much money. I would never pay this. Like, what a waste of money." And it really did cause a click in my head that I never had, even when I worked at an aquascaping store, because I've always been on YouTube thinking about how is the way to make it affordable, or what is a cheaper way, or what one or two things can you buy that are fancy, like a light maybe, or the tank itself. And then everything else, you can kind of fake it and not have to spend all that money. Like you could use flue ball stratum and some root tabs and, you know, mix your own ferts, that kind of thing. And I had to think, like, now that I was downsizing due to my health and due to physical limitations, not supposed to lift more than 20 pounds at a time, or it's actually less, but 20 pounds max. Not supposed to be, you know, bending over and standing on my foot still at all. Really, I'm not supposed to be putting weight on it. I can't have the fish room. So the fish room's downsized now to around 15 tanks. And of those tanks, there's like 6 that could go away in a day if I just said to my local fish club, like free, you know, free white cloud minnow tank. There's 6 of them in there or whatever. But yeah, I was gonna say that it was a dream come true that second time in the hospital when I realized that I was gonna live. I'd made it through the ambulance, and there was a light, and I told you guys about this. There was a very surreal moment, like in a movie or in a book, or I don't know, the way people describe it. Like I had a fever, my leg was cut open, I was on blood, I was on these things called pressors, I was on morphine, I was on tons of antibiotics, and I also had ice cold saline pumping through my veins, and I was butt naked other than this vest that was ice cold to keep me cool because my fever was so high, and they couldn't have it that high because I was getting brain damage, and organs were actually like, you know, the proteins start to like demyelinate and cook and stuff in there. So I'm going from one hospital to another, and getting, you know, the bumps in the road in the ambulance, and I'm just mumbling like, I'm cold, I'm shivering. And there was a moment that was like, all of a sudden, all the pain stopped, all the noise stopped, and it was just soft, quiet, and I felt like I was being cradled, like in the coziest blanket. And it was like, come over here. Like, we're ready for you. Come over here. You know, it's beautiful over here. And like these voices that were like familiar friends or something. And then there was literally some sort of me thinking about and taking a breath. I took this breath. And after I did that, I heard myself doing that with my eyes closed. And as I did that, I thought, like, no, this is a trick. I have to, my wife is still here. She's gonna be crushed if I'm gone. You know, my mom, she's gonna be crushed if I'm gone. Like, I want to stay wherever this is, or if this is just chemicals making me feel better because I'm so messed up, whatever it is, whatever, spiritual, chemical, both, religious, I don't know. But that was the first life-changing moment there. And I kid you not, a few days later, I'm alone in the hospital room. My wife has brought me food and stuff to eat and stuff. And I'm going through my phone, and I'm finally well enough that I'm answering texts and saying to everybody, I will not be there next month in Cincinnati. I will not be there next month in St. Louis. I will not be there in Columbus. I will not be there in like Dearborn, Michigan. I will not be there in Chicago. There's a car here, hon. Is that someone you're waiting for?
That's me.
Huh?
That's me.
Oh, she get a new car?
Yeah, she got the receipt.
Oh, I didn't know you were leaving like right away, but
yeah.
I love you, baby. I guess I'll see you later tonight.
Yeah. I'll text you when our dinner's not till 7. We're heading over now.
All right. Well, maybe this will be a long live stream then. All right. I love you. I love you, baby. Have fun.
I fed baby.
Okay, thank you. And so is that what happens to Tony in The Sopranos? I need to rewatch The Sopranos. It's a good series. You know, so it was the moment though, canceling all the aquarium related stuff that I had worked. And like I said, I was really trying to work. And I shared this with you guys the last live stream that, you know, Corey from Aquarium Co-op and a couple other people, they weren't necessarily like, you can't do it, we hate you, like get out of here or anything like that. But there was a very like, nobody's going to want to watch that. If you want to succeed, like I'll tell you how to succeed. And I was like, I'm not really interested in succeeding like you are. I want to do this nerdy FISHTORY thing, and I want to also have like a communication about like us as people and us as like a friend group and keep it that way. And I don't care how big it gets. And that's what I said when the channel started. Then you get into this spot where you're like, the channel's big enough now that I quit my day job. So how do I stay quit from the day job? And so you're growing plants, you're selling fish, and you quit the day job, and you're doing the YouTube, and you're making just enough. And in Seattle is just an expensive city. It would have been just fine in a lot of other places for the bulk of this time. But right now, I'm in this spot kind of again. And I'm feeling like I need to make a good splash. Like we're at 100,000. Everybody's seen my filterless tanks, my planted tanks, my deep substrate tanks, immersed stuff, pond stuff, stuff under the microscope. Some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. And then I realized that too, that a lot of those videos are 7 or 8 years old. And I need to come back around, revisit these subjects. And after all of this, you know, I was so excited and said yes immediately to that opportunity to work with AFA and ADA. And I am still excited. I drew out plans that night. I drew out more plans and all these different ideas. And I just pitched one. And then I was like, let's see what they say. And then I'm like, can we do isopods in it and like scuds? And they're like, maybe let's do it like like more traditional aquascape a little bit, like more competition tank. He's like, you can make it so like it's a long-term tank, because I was like, I don't want to build a tank that's being built for one picture and then torn down. I've never really built a tank that's like a diorama or a symbol. And that's the challenge of this one, is I want to build a tank that looks like fire, because of everything I told you earlier in this stream of wanting to show how fire and humans and the actual essence of being humans, the proof of how we mastered fire is written in the actual pharyngeal teeth in the crystalline matrix that makes up the pharyngeal teeth of a carp that lived in Israel, that humans made extinct by, as humans left Africa through that area, through the Levant and through the Sinai Peninsula. There were lakes all over, these like reedy, brackish lakes that had these carp in them. And these carp would get up to 5 feet long, and they had some normal like little soft teeth for like nipping at stuff like lily pads and stuff. But in their throat, they had a special type of teeth. And when it was cooked to a certain temperature, the crystalline matrix would rearrange. And that if it's cooked to say 400 degrees Fahrenheit and not under a flame, like if it's baked, it would then have a certain pattern of like square, triangle, square, triangle, square, triangle in the crystals, right? If it goes to 500 degrees, then it turns to square, 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 triangle, square, 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 triangle, square, 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 square. And so with all this, they're able to recreate by heating up an uncooked version of these teeth from the throat of a fish. And in the dentine and enamel, they're able to, within 100 degrees, figure out how hot that was cooked. And once it gets exposed to being charred on a stick, as if like early humans would just probably slide a fish on a stick and hold it over the fire, when they do that, it carbonizes it and turns it into a completely new structure. So we can see that for 100,000 years, over 58,000 sets of teeth from these fish at this one archaeological site along this river and lake. And at one point it had a cave that was like on the banks of this lake, that people for 100,000 years, you know how long that is? And this is 700 to 600,000 years BC. We're cooking fish, and we have the fish, the evidence that for 100,000 years, something was not burning them up. Something was cooking them, putting all the bones and debris into different pits every so often, and then, yada, yada. It's absolutely incredible what we've learned there. Also, humans standing and getting above the tall grass. Is it because they needed to climb trees that they stood, or because they needed to get above the grass to hunt and run? Or is it maybe that they were hunting and spearing fish in the water, in shallow water, like reeds? And there's no 100% sure answer or anything, but there's a good case that you would use a spear as kind of a walking stick if you needed it while you're learning. And gradually over time, you could take a spear, and even chimpanzees will chew a stick sharp and use it as a weapon. And you could learn to spear fish and also stand upright to create less of a shadow or presence over the fish, right? And to see where the fish are. So all of this made me want to do the flame and to make it in an aquarium. Like the first invention, the first harness, stone tools are, but I've flint knapped some of the rocks that are in the tank. So that's a touch that some people will probably never know, but unless you see this live stream. But I also flint napped the rocks. So they have been worked as though they were also ancient, right? So we've got flint knap rocks from the region I live in, and they're also the kind of flint knap stone, the jadeite and quartzite, that would have been used if like obsidian hadn't been brought up from Oregon and stuff. Like they didn't always have that. Sometimes they had to use chert or flint. And so that's what I'm using for the stone. So I've had to figure out all of that stuff. And you know, guys, here's the failing. This is the part where I overthink everything, and where I overlook things, and where sometimes when I'm not feeling well or I'm feeling run down, this sort of thing happens, okay? So I go and I read for a week off and on, not nonstop, of course. I went and I read about ADA's aqua soil, how when they first started it in the early 90s, the first iteration, the second iteration, I emailed people from the company. I emailed aquascapers that were around back then. I talked to George Lowe and I asked him, like, what makes it different? You know, I got research from Tom Barr on the physics of what's going on elementally and with ammonia, ammonium, nitrate, nitrite, and you know, reabsorption, reuptake of ammonia versus sequestration of ammonia, and expultration of it into plant roots, things like this. Very detailed stuff, and how aqua soil has been engineered over time for all this stuff. It is not a gimmick, so to speak. It just like if you want to grow good show winning tomatoes, and let's take it to another step that I feel like people these days get better. If you want some herb that is top notch, you don't just grow it in grandma's magic potting mix with some chicken poo and this or that. No, people are very specific, and they hydroponically grow it. They infuse, you know, this much during this stage. They do a nitrogen flush. They'll do, you know, all these sorts of things. They'll change the lights, heights, and angles, and all these things all the time. And it's big business, right? So little changes, little details make big differences in the aquarium world, in the planted world. And I wanted to read about all that and understand it on that level, since ADA, yeah, what if grandma does have the dank stuff? Nick, you're right, man. Sometimes you're right, though. Some people do have it right with their at home or with their experience. And, you know, that's why this channel, if you ever watch the video that's like, is this channel right for you? We take academic research and evidence, and then we take experience from hobbyists and people who are passionate about the topic, whether that's fish, plants, aquariums, physics, light refraction, you know, off of the scales of fish and how to make them look more pretty, whatever it may be, genetics. And then we marry those two things together when there's academic standing and foundation there, and it can be exemplified by somebody's trial and error. And then when something doesn't quite jive, and it's like one doesn't agree with the other, but the results are repeatable by the person who is an expert but not an academic, that's when suddenly the expert can become an academic, which is the incredible part about citizen scientists. If you document what you're doing and you share it correctly, you take notes, you don't need a PhD. If you do something and it makes something grow twice as fast, or, you know, makes it beautiful red colors and nothing else does, and this is the healthy way to do it, and you figured out that trick, you may not know, oh, it's because, you know, this atom comes off this chemical and this compound, and then it, you know, ends up reformulating into this because of that in the environment. But something about when you documented how you've done it, you are now doing the scientific process. If you can do it over and over, and you can then share that with someone, then they can figure out what's going on, right? And so that's what this channel is all about, is that magic and that mystery of discovering those people who know a little something that's outside the realm of science, and they've just experimented or observed and kind of seen it and figured it out. Things like, you know, ball lightning. That was something that people didn't even think existed in a lot of cases. And now we have like video of it. It's when basically electricity, energy, or lightning forms an orb and just floats around ghostly. Sometimes it just hovers in one place. Sometimes it zips around and bounces off walls and shoots straight up in the air and changes angles and goes insane. They think it, like, one of the guesses is it's either like a methane gas with silica from the soil and an extremely strong lightning bolt that causes plasma to form in a tight, like, self-reacting state. But we don't know still for sure. And it's one of those things that's like, I don't know, look up like sprites at night. Sprites are another one where, like, just these massive bolts of like red and green that go up into the upper atmosphere, and pilots have seen them for years, and they're like, what in the hell is that? You know, sometimes it doesn't move, sometimes it looks like the northern lights coming from the ground. There's lots of weird stuff out there, right, guys? And the citizen scientist is any one of you who's just documenting what you're doing, and you're doing it carefully. And as long as you can go back and pick through all the particulars of something, then that's great, and we can probably figure it out. But, you know, usually you start off, you do something and you notice a quirky thing and you're like, wow, that's really cool. And you try to repeat it, and if you can repeat it, you will do so. Then you start saying, okay, well, what about this process is not necessary? And you start removing elements until it doesn't repeat itself the way you wanted it. Then you find that thing, that one thing you changed that one time, and you say, well, what happened? And that's basically, at that point, you're doing real science, right? You know? So with all this going on, I'm reading about all these properties of the substrate of ADA soil, of ADA version 2.0. They also gave me these lovely little jars of Bacter 100, which has 100 species of dormant or cyst or suspended animation bacteria from a healthy aquarium, and they basically like freeze dry it. And when water and nutrients come back into contact with them, the bacteria comes back to life. And as nitrates and ammonia and all that is getting into your aquarium, these help diversify your aquarium, and it helps create a balanced aquarium. Also helps plant roots work as a team with also yeast and fungus in the aquarium, and to absorb nutrients better. Then there is clear, the ultra clear stuff they have, and then there is the aquamarine stuff they have, which changes the conductivity of water. It changes the pH a bit. It optimizes plant nutrient reuptake, and also has some carbon. It is not liquid carbon, but it has some carbon that is also essential for creating surface area for that bacteria. So while all these things are going on, I'm reading about them and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to do one video on substrates, right, guys? And I'm going to do that video for ADA and AFA, and it better look good. So I'm trying to film it, and I'm waiting for a day when the sun's coming into the room and it looks all magical at magic hour, and it's kind of like that lovely afternoon sun thing. And also kind of hoping that the cat would be around and kind of be prancing around and be a little bit fun for the video. So I'm giving her treats, and I'm setting up a couple different lights, a ring light and like a couple shop lights, and the aquarium. Aquarium's still empty. This was back in December, end of December, right before New Year's. And I put the entire bag of the aqua soil, well, not the entire bag. I had another bag. So I had 2 bags of aqua soil. One I'd bought myself from ADA. And I was like, well, honestly, I use half ADA and half Amazonia at home usually, but that's because of cost. So I'm going to use all their ADA. Since they sent me enough. So I'll use all theirs, and that's going to be different from what I would do, but we'll do that. And also, I would tend to use the lasagna method where I put down some sand and then I put down some coral. Well, we're not building a tank that's set up for the same life cycle and or functionality as I usually go for. This tank is going to be all about making plants look incredible for 2 or 3 years, changing it around maybe every 6 months, kind of roughly changing the shape or the idea, adding new plants, moving them around, and then having a few nano fish that are in there. That's really the main idea. And when I put the stuff in there, I didn't even think twice, but I washed it because I always used to wash substrate. So I put it into a bucket and I'm moving it around. I'm not like shaking it or anything, but I'm going like this and I'm kind of just getting the debris to float up, and I'm pouring off the brown water. Now, early on, Aqua Soil by ADA literally had ammonia, nitrates, and nitrites, and ammonium all off-gassing from it. And it was a hot fertilizer. It was like having chicken poo from the garden straight in your aquarium. And it was not cool to have fish in for like 6 to 8 weeks, and you needed CO2 pretty quickly. You needed to do a lot of water change. There were volatile organics that could cause problems, that could cause cyanobacteria or algae, and could also cause melt. And so you had to do these big water changes, and you needed the CO2 running, right? Well, I hadn't really looked at version 2 now and thought about how we were going to be introducing stuff, and the fact that everything we were introducing was either tissue culture or already submerged and in the tanks in here. And so I put all the stuff in the tank and I rinsed it really thoroughly until it rinsed clean. And I'm filming the video. I'm showing myself tucking some of the plants in. I'm saying we're going to try them out. We're going to show them under the light. And then I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll make the light video now, and I'll make the filter video now, since we had to set all that up too, and the CO2. So we go to the CO2 store. I film myself getting the CO2, and I can't lift CO2, so I had to get a friend to do it. So it's becoming this thing that is a lot more steps than I would expect it to be, you know. And the weight of this project already was weighing heavy on me. I'm like, don't mess it up. Like, this is such an honor to get to do this. And I'm already kneecapping myself with negative thoughts. I'm already saying, like, this is a dumb idea. Why am I doing a fire? Why don't I just do a Dutch tank? And then I'm like, I can't do a Dutch tank. I don't know anything about the rules of Dutch tanks when it comes down to it. Like, yeah, I know you got to have different plants arranged in different sections, and then you trim them down, and you kind of have different shapes and pathways, and nothing can repeat, nothing can be symmetrical, nothing can be too asymmetrical. Like there's all these rules, and I just don't know them or even know how to break them well enough to like play that game. And so I say, okay, I'm gonna stick the course. I'm gonna go with this. So I put the wood in, I put a few rocks in, and I say, you know what? I'm gonna let the filter run for the night, and I'm gonna I'll refilm in the morning. Okay. Well, then I had a flare come up. Wasn't feeling well over New Year's and stuff. And my wife at this point is like, if your health is going downhill, you have now been on life support for 2 or 3 days for 2 days in Florida, and for 3.5 or 4, I was on even breathing tubes in Harborview, here in Seattle, which is one of the nation's most, it's high level, level 5 trauma center. People from Alaska come here. It's where they do like face transplants and stuff that you read about. Like Dallas has one, LA has one, Boston, I think Chicago, Miami. There's only like, I don't know, 8 of them in the country that are that high of a level. But I just, I had her saying like, do not dwell on this, stay up too late, not listen to like keeping off your foot, all those kind of things. And so she's having me pace myself, and I am. And then I'm like, crap, I haven't made a video for the normal channel that's just like 10 fish that everybody wants to lick. I don't know, some kind of frivolous video that's fun, right? And I haven't done any interviews. And so then I start reaching out to people and doing these things. I kind of got sidetracked with that. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching the video one more time before I'm done with the voiceover. Mick, thank you so much, buddy. I always appreciate you being here and also promoting the discounts so people can save money if they want to buy anything from, if they want to buy fish in the US, or they want to buy other critters and plants and so forth. Thank you so much, buddy. Hope you have a wonderful night. You Episto master, you. But I was just gonna say, so then I have where was I? Oh, so my wife was saying, don't wear yourself out, yada. And I'm watching the last video that ADA, they did not put out. AFA featured it from a creator that was a very good aquascaper in America that spoke English. And he was saying, the thing I love the most about the new ADA aqua soil is you don't need to rinse it whatsoever. In fact, rinsing it actually just causes a flush of, like if you rinse it in the tank, you're gonna get your filter primed with too hot of a substrate, and with that silt and stuff, and you're gonna quickly clog the initial run of the filtration. It's good to know, as I've been running it for 4 days with no plants or anything. So I have a video showing me putting everything in one take, with time lapses from my other friend's phone, and I am rinsing it off and shaking it, and then pouring some off, adding more water, pouring some off. Then I'm scooping it out. It also says don't do that because you're gonna break the little pebbles with with scooping it out with something, unless you're very gentle with it, or it's like a blade scoop, like like that you get like puppy chow out with, or something, like one of the, like, I don't know, like a candy, like a little shovel. So I hadn't done it the right way, And here this stuff is like, you know, $60 to $100 a bag, depending on where you live. And I'm going to start bitching about, oh, you know, just like every aqua soil in the past, there's still little bubble lines and dirt and silt. Now we got to clean that. Now we're going to do a big water change. We're going to get a paper towel and get all the dust off. Then we're going to get a power head and run that. And we're going to run the filter. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a little bit of charcoal or cloth. We're going to put that at the intake of the filter. And we're going to let that get nice and dirty and disgusting. And then we'll just throw that away. And then, ta-da, the water will be clean. Well, that's not what you're supposed to do with their product. They fix that. The whole thing about their little ball is that it maintains its power from the fact that it's a little sphere that does anoxic filtration and can sequester and store excess ammonia, nitrates, nitrites, and ammonium. It can store that in the clay baked center of the little pellets, and the outside is totally oxygen loving bacteria land, and it's fluffy soil high in mineral content that encourages good bacteria like nitrobacillus and nitrobacter to grow on and nitrosomas to grow on the outside. So you've literally got the stuff that's in your filter growing on the outside of each little sphere, and then in the center you have an anoxic filtration or an anoxic substrate. And some people want anoxic substrates. The problem is if you have one, you can't fuss with it. You can't dig into it. Your plant roots need to naturally grow into it. And you can't have a fish that digs into it. You can't get bored and just pull plants out and replant them all the time. You need to do it the certain way. So I took everything back out of the tank. I re-soaked the wood. It's still in a bucket. I get more plants. George messages me and he goes, "How's it going?" And I go, "I have all the plants picked out and I know where I want to put them." So I do it the right way. I film the plants, or I film the aqua soil going in. I film the stones being arranged. I talk a little bit about the rule of thirds, a little bit about the golden ratio, and a little bit about how it's all a bit of hocus pocus and like listen to whatever you want, but really aesthetically do what you want, do what makes you feel good. There's a lot of different beliefs out there, everything from feng shui to wabikuza to just the chaos of nature to dropping things and letting them land where they will. And I don't get too far into it, but I did that. So then I get that video done and I'm starting to put the plants in, and I'm starting to put in some of the plants that are expensive, some of the like $20 plants that I bought on my own. And I'm thinking, man, to have a carpeting, like to have like a ring of pink panther crypt carpeting this space in the tank. How can I get it to grow like really bright or dark red? And I'm like thinking about the light, and I'm thinking about the levels and how I'm going to taper the substrate up so it's kind of like a riser or a bleacher. And then and the front comes down, and the fireplace is like a mound or a tiered like wedding cake of aqua soil, and then the plants grow out of it with the wood in the center and the plants kind of growing out of it and spiraling around it like the flame that dances in the water. Okay, So I'm putting this together and I'm starting to think, okay, this looks like a tank now. This is like, okay, we're rolling. I know I'm a little behind. I didn't get all the parts till the end of November, but here we are, end of January, and we're okay. I talked to George about things, and he's like, it's just do it when you can, do it right. It's more important to do it right. And I look at the aqua soil and the ADA bag and kit and the fact of what they sent me, and they're very pro planting the plants from the tissue culture underwater. Or I mean, sorry. You're spraying with a spray bottle, the dry start method. I flooded the tank immediately because that's how I like to do it. Do little things become unsecure and like end up floating to the top? And yeah, little pellets, some of them are lighter than others, and little bits of dust and hair and like whatever is in the room kind of becomes this gunky layer on top, and you just clean it every couple days. Yeah. But every video they have on AFA or on there, they either do a dark start, the new thing, tank style, or they're doing the dry start where they're doing like a checkerboard pattern of like repens of some sort or whatever, Junkin repens or hair grass, dwarf hair grass. And at this point, I'm like, well, I don't care. I can just do it the way I'm going to do it. They said to do it the way I'm going to do it. And then I realize that like a lot of the tissue culture plants melt terribly when you don't do it the right way. When you just put them in underwater right away, they die a lot. The best way to deal with like pink panther is not to put it in your aquarium and let it just grow. It's actually to put it in a riparium or get a cloche or some sort of glass jar that you can spray bottle into and keep it in a warm room or cupboard or whatever with a lamp on it, and grow it for 1 to 3 weeks in there, or 1 to 4 weeks, I guess, in there, and make sure that its roots are starting to hold on a bit before you put that into the main tank, right? Because then it won't melt. Because once you get melt, it's going to make a lot of debris floating around. That's going to make more trouble. And then you're going to have to clean out that filter again, because there's just so much that happens with the fine debris of aqua soil and tissue cultures. So what do? Well, I take a lot of the tissue cultures and I throw some into potted plants in the humid fish room, and I put some back into other tanks, and they're now successfully transferred in most cases, and a lot did die. Like, it would have been a waste of space, and it would have just cascaded into failure unless I was there every day getting everyone as it failed out of there. But long story short is, like, I'm missing these things because I have my own way of doing it that's 20, well, with Planet Tanks, 15 years now of watching and observing, 10 years since I was, trained in like Iwagumi and kind of Brazilian and Amano style tanks. And the tech has really changed. And that's what I want to feature in the video, is to show you guys the way it's suggested to go. And then I can easily, obviously, come in with a voiceover and say, well, it's supposed to go like this, but I've tried it like this, and I have this old video where you can see I did it like this and it worked out better, right? So I can do that. But I've restarted. I've feared failure and finished what I was working on and walked away now. Technically 3 times, but 2 major times on this aquascape project. And just now, is it starting again? Or is the aqua soil going back in? And I just wanted to share that with you guys, that all this comes to a point that in my own heart, it had to do with, was I worthy to change careers in the middle of my early 30s to become a full-time podcaster, YouTuber? What the hell are you thinking, Alex? Are you ever going to work again? You got hit by lightning now. Oh, and you're going to go to Florida, and then, oh my gosh, you're independent and you're married with an incredible wife. Life is going well. I was enjoying the stuff I was researching and making on the channel, meeting my heroes of the hobby, reading and learning all the time, which is what I live to do. And then in the hospital, it was symbolically not once where my family felt like it was falling apart, my tiny little family of my wife and I, and our trust and our privacy and my years of sobriety and trying. And like on here, even I get really emotional when sometimes I laugh it off and it's fine. And sometimes I I laugh it off and it's fine because I look crazy, right? Like my hair's all kooky, and clearly I just don't care that much about the aesthetics of how I look. Like I have my mind on fish or some other crazy thing, and I will forget to shave when going to give a speech, and I'll forget to put a belt on or a shoe, like insane stuff, because I'm fixated on some other kooky thing, right? But like that's what I love also, is that like I'm with people that like seem to give me some grace and some space to exist in that way. And a lot of you, maybe it's like some autistic thing or OCD thing. With me, I've been diagnosed definitely heavily OCD when I was younger. Used to have to alphabetize all my books and then color code them if they did not have a name that alphabetically made sense in the configuration I had them. I wouldn't let people sit on my bed. There's just so many things. It was bad. And I thought I had got over all of that. And I don't have any teeth, guys. There have been a lot of nights where I've gotten on live streams and I'm literally on the couch, not looking forward to tomorrow, not looking forward to a week from tomorrow or a year or any tomorrow. I'm just in pain or frustrated that when I want to use tweezers and I say I want to pick up something with tweezers, it's that easy. I look at it, I pick it up, haha, awesome, did it. Some days I can't even get these together. When the rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, whatever they want to call it, like now it's like it's kind of both things. Connective tissue autoimmune disorder. When your body betrays you like that, it's frustrating. And when you put the time in to become a different person, when you change your behaviors, it's been 18 years since I freaking drank. And then I take a muscle relaxer or a Benadryl and I try to talk and I try to not have this tremor or some other thing going on with my health. And I get online and then I see the comments that are like, why doesn't bro have any teeth? Yeah, bro was so tired and he was passed out. Like like, why did he even stream? And I get that. Like, it's so fair. I would make those judgments too on people. They don't know my life. They haven't sat down and heard things out. But I would never, ever like disrespect you guys by becoming incapacitated and like at all intentionally, you know, like it's always in hopes of that I'm going to be more functional, and it ends up just making me usually tired or showing up how beat down I was. And you know, that was really hard on my emotions when I was going through this hospital thing, and you had doctors saying to my wife that I'd been lying to her, and you had my wife kind of questioning, like, could that be true, even if it was only for a day or two? And even with her questioning that, even with her not knowing if I had taken stuff or if I had been sneaking stuff, she believed in me, looking into my eyes, and she said, we're getting out of here. And I was told, like, why are you doing this to your wife? You're tearing her apart. You're killing her. Like, you know, such guilt trips. And these people all thought they were doing the right thing. They all thought that I was some strung out dude. But long story long, everybody in a situation can think they are the hero, can think they are the one doing the right thing. They are the one acting rationally. And everything can still go to shit. And everyone's feelings can still get hurt. But when we come together, it washes away all of that anxiety and fear. And I think about the good times and the things that I've learned, and the fact that I was told 10 years ago, just from the autoimmune stuff, not even the lightning, that I was done with a 9 to 5 job. I would needed to find a job that was computer work only, or like remote work, that maybe I should learn to code or do a call center type job. I mean, it was not looking good, especially when, remember, I went to school for history, archaeology, anthropology. Then I became a tattoo artist and a muralist, and then a graphic designer and marketing person. And it was a big, big decision right around the time that I started uploading some content to YouTube. I had a very, very popular gallery in Seattle, art gallery. And I made $51,000 in a year doing art shows. And I would do an art show or two every weekend. I would have 2 or 3 cafes and or bars or pool halls or whatever, just any place that would hang my art. I had different series of artwork. And then I proved to my wife that, like, I could pay for the health insurance, that I was going to these events. We were selling. I created some of the first coloring books for adults, the psychedelic coloring book, and then the Fungus Among Us mushroom coloring book. And it was like a magical time. And I met my wife, who's like my soulmate. And, you know, I'm thinking maybe I'll go back to school, but like we don't have to. We go to Europe. We're just seeing all these things and all this stuff going on. And I I quit my job at Trader Joe's doing their artwork, and I am doing full-time mural art and starting to do the YouTube stuff as a side project and doing graphic design. And um, failure was definitely an option at every turn, all of that. But I knew that I couldn't live with myself. I knew if I ever had a moment where I was dying and I had a chance to think about it, that I didn't want to die. That I didn't want to die in the back of an ambulance or on the side of a Florida freeway with all these regrets of like, oh, I should have started a podcast. I wish I knew more about pseudomagills. I wish I knew what the Latin name for a neon, for a blue-eye red neon killifish is. Pseudomagill luminatus. Anyways, that's like the meaning that this gives my life. And sometimes when you hold something so sacred, or when you hold something to have so much meaning, it's been built up in your head as like this part of you. And by the way, could I go back to art? A lot of people are like, oh, just start doing art again. I lost my ability to write like at all with my right hand after my lightning strike and the brain, the CTE after I had a hemorrhage of bleeding that was minor, didn't have to go in or do anything, but it needed time to heal, and I just had to rest, and they had to keep an eye on it, keep me on blood thinners. And then on the back of my head, 2 massive concussions and a hemorrhaging of the brain. And it changed me. I used to have a photographic memory in the sense that I don't know what that means for sure, but like I could drive somewhere and I would remember. I might remember closing my eyes and thinking, oh, there was a squirrel on that fence, and there was that tree that had those red leaves, and there was a stop sign there, and next to the stop sign it said Hawthorne, because I remember I was thinking of the show Hee Haw, and I remembered the puppet sitting on the fence in my imagination, and Hee Haw, and then Hawthorne is like it. Like just these, I could remember really obscure facts and information, and I could sketch from my memory a lot. And I don't have that at all. I don't have that at all anymore. And I don't think it's coming back. It's 8 years, I guess. Is it 8 or 9? I think it's 8 years in. Yeah, it's either 8 or 9 years in June. And then also my gallery, I closed it down. I felt like I had proven to myself that I could make 50 grand a year, which was in my head what I projected I needed to make to have a family and kids, like bare minimum. And that anything above that I could, obviously do. And I could do like maybe tech work or something. And after the lightning, we found out that we weren't going to have the family or the kids or the baby potential either because of my injuries. And I've shared this with you guys, but boy, did I want to go back and have a drink or just not feel the way I was feeling. And, I didn't. I threw myself harder into watching the aquariums. I went to occupational therapy every day for a while. You can go back and watch those old live streams. There's times when I would sleep for 4 hours before doing a live stream, and I'd do my live stream and I'd be like, hey guys, it's Alex Williamson. How are you doing? I'm good. We're in Canada today. And it looks like I'm lazy or tired or hungover or maybe on something or slow. Definitely was slow, but it was me trying my hardest. And my wife supported that. She could have said like, get on disability, and like we got to figure out this or whatever. She could have just left. We had just gotten married, but no, we got a house. She bought a house. It's her house. Don't let anybody fool you. I can't afford no house. But and I see the super chats, you guys, so thank you so much. But I just uh uh I just wanted to let you in on the doubt, the pressure, the fear. Channel hits 100K. Does it mean anything? Like, does that give you any clout or ability that you already had or didn't have? Or no, it doesn't. And you feel an accomplishment of, yeah, that this is an arbitrary mark that we all say is like that's a lot. But to me, like 500 people listening to me and to each other and in this community was a lot and was incredible and was beautiful and still is. And I think, to be frank, I don't think we have a whole lot more than maybe 500. We have less than that. We've got 270 paid members of this channel. And no shade, other people have helped out. If a lot of people don't, like, they want to help out and support the channel, keep the lights on, keep things going and so forth, and they want to help out via PayPal or Patreon or Venmo. All that stuff is linked in on the bottom of the screen. There's discount codes. I don't think any of that other stuff is on the bottom of the screen, though. The other stuff's in the description of the video, though. If you want to ever support the channel that way, if you don't want to give YouTube $1.99 a month that I get $1.10 of, you can give me on PayPal $1.99, and I will get all but 66 cents of it. So $1.44 I will get out of that specific, just because I'm counting taxes. But then there'll be tax write-offs, and then the 3% handling fee. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to share with you this journey of like a little more of why don't you have the aquascape finished. And it's because it has started to symbolize everything I've done in the last 10 years. And it started to symbolize like everything I know and everything I don't know and everything that, like, I haven't built this nice setup thing in so long. And I'm even scared just to hold the lily pipe and break it. but it's coming. And it's just such an interesting time in my life with celebrating the channel existing and going through so much and still being here, and you guys being so incredible. And just thank you. And you're not alone. If you ever feel like you want to give up on a project, or your tank, you don't know what to do, you need to take a break, you want to step away, you want to get more into it, whatever it may be, we're going through these things together, different levels of intensity, different things sparking it, but we're all just people that love and think and have hobbies and passions, and are inspired and are moved by the same or different things. But yeah. Okay, let me real quickly just say thank you, Jan. Appreciate it. Alex said, please don't have what we call in science imposter syndrome. Oh, yeah. You are the real deal. So grateful that you are still. Well, thank you. I do get imposter syndrome, though, for sure. Like, wait, why are people asking me? I might know a little bit, but there's got to be like 10 people better than me somewhere around here. Okay. Benson Eats says, are aquatic isopods safe in breeder tanks for fry boxes, nanos, panda loaches, any species that you wouldn't work with? Do they need a lid? They do. You probably do want a lid, just because they can climb up and out, and they can breathe underwater or out of water. They have these tubule things that are not like lungs. They basically absorb, as long as they're moist. The tubules in their lung, in the tubes, they can breathe. And so they'll like re-dunk themselves, but for like a half hour to an hour, if it's really humid, even like half a day, they can come out, or they can be inside a log or a stick or something, mulch on the edge of the water. So yeah, you want to be a little bit careful of that. And even the land-based isopods, little potato bugs, sow bugs, can end up underwater for a time too. But yeah, they're fine with those fish and stuff, as far as like they're not going to predate any of the young. And they've done studies. You look up, go to Google and just type in, Google search engine, and then in the search engine section, not up in the URL section, you can type in something about isopods and zebrafish, or isopods and egg cleaning. And there's experiments where they talk about how the hatch rate is better, the health is better, and the isopods, as well as some of the bacteria and fungi that live in tandem with them, they will take the infected or defective eggs and eat them elsewhere, like over in the corner, but they will clean and rotate and make sure that oxygen is getting to the other eggs, in to facilitate the fact that they want the fish to hatch, evolutionarily speaking. It's really cool. And MT, I'm glad that you liked the story, I guess. I'm sorry it went on so long, but I just wanted to tell people what's been going down. And I hadn't even fully told the people at AFA and ADA, like the filming stuff, the fact that I literally have filmed it and then took it out and cleaned the tank twice. But we'll get it right. We'll get it right. And I think at a certain point, I'm just going to not be so overly perfectionist about that kind of stuff. I'm going to say, this is the way I did it. This is how they recommended, or I didn't see a better way recommended in particular. And I have asked George, you know, like, is there any verbiage that they need? Like, do they need a specific quote? And I won't say I like this because of X, Y, or Z. But if they give me a pamphlet that says, hey, it can do X, Y, or Z, and there's something that I honestly really think is a cool feature about it, then yes, I will read that out. And it's good to know that it has that ability. FISHTORY, just do the tank your way. We're here to see you do it. You can make their own video. You do your thing. Yeah, thanks, man. You know, I'm not gonna do the isopods and the bugs and the algae and the mulch the way that would be. I am going to try to make a tank that is not a deep substrate, but is an aqua soil, utilizing the science we know of aqua soil, and see where we get with that, you know. I also mentioned the products Bacter 100 and the Clean Start or Super Clean or Crystal Clean, or I forget the name of it, but they are in the Power Sand. So the Power Sand is another product by ADA, and you're not supposed to wash it, but dummy me, yeah, I washed it, rinsed it, and it really is not supposed to be rinsed. It has powder and chemicals and nutrients and fertilizers all over it. So yeah, there's several, and they sent me these little containers that had the same stuff, like the Bacter 100, so that I could add it to my own tank or to ADA substrate, and same with root tabs and all sorts of other stuff. I mean, they really hooked it up, and I can't thank them enough. But I want to do them justice, because I have looked up to them as a very high standard, a very beautiful, industrially designed, and cool slice of architecture and industrial design and technology for the environment, and for, you know, botany, botanicals, and fish and spawning fish, feeding fish, you name it. As well as tons of stuff about how to take pictures of fish, or how to recreate a moment in time and kind of get a freeze frame of those things that you can't hold on to, those intangible things in life. So anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here. We're edging on 3 hours, and I promise you guys that when I can lately, I won't always stream at 4 Pacific time, 7 Eastern time, but I will always go as long as I can if I stream at a time that's off, or if I missed a recent stream. So thank you so very much to all of you. Stay tuned. I think the next stream will probably be when I announce what giveaways we're doing. I'm meeting with Chang to discuss using my store credit to buy gift certificates, and hopefully buying some more prizes, just in case anyone overseas wins, or maybe making a deal with someone like Runimans or Aquarium Glazer that would be interested in sending something to any of you that are in the EU and so forth. So I am working on a couple last kinks, but we do have now like over $700 in sponsors to give away stuff from, and it should be fun. And I will post a video so that everyone can enter. They'll have like a full week's notice to enter this thing at least. And then there'll be another opportunity to enter on the, not this coming next live stream, but probably either the one after that, probably March 9th. So probably not the rest of this week or anything. We'll probably announce it then, and then the one after that, I'll tell you guys what you need to do, which is basically like or subscribe to our channel. And then if you're a member, you get 5 extra points. And if you're subscribed, you get 1 extra point. So those will help your odds in this sense. I'm debating also, like, do I do mostly, since I want people present to be winning, like if I do a standalone video, then it will be anybody who commented on the video, so that we make sure that there's prizes like there. Whereas I'm not 100% sure what to do about that longer term. If that makes sense, like how we would make sure that the people got it. Yeah, but we'll figure it out. That there's a couple kinks. We'll figure it out. Try and twist the mistakes into something funny and use it to educate viewers. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. And that's true. We just need to laugh at ourselves sometimes, not take it so seriously. And usually I'm pretty good at that, you guys. Usually I really am. My life is pretty freaking funny, but it is hard at times, especially when I don't tell you guys everything that's going on, because how could you? And like, why would you? Like, everybody's got a lot going on. I'm sure there's 5 of you in the chat that have a life that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never wish that on anybody. Like, just the things that all of us deal with just in the course of being a human in life. And it's why it's so beautiful that we can all be so different and unique and still come together for a united purpose and reason. So if you want to support the channel, like I said, just you can send super chats or whatever. You can do super thanks, that's fine. Become a member for as little as $1.99. That's great. And you can also find my PayPal and my Venmo on the description doobly-doo down below if you would like to do that route. There's lots of options. Also, no pressure, just watching, also sharing. It does so much good for the channel anyways. Like, that's what it's all about. And it may be a connection that in some chat, maybe you have a video that you like the way I explain something, and save it like as, well, I get this question all the time about how do I treat for instance, bloated bettas. Well, I like this video he did about the pee and the science behind it and why Google and all these other places got it wrong. Sharing stuff like that is invaluable, and I can't thank you guys enough for it. And I just appreciate it so much. I love you all, and I'll see you again very soon on the next episode of FISHTORY. I'm fading fast. My eyes are starting to Snoopy Doop on my loopy loop. Have a good night, everybody. And sorry, Amy, I know you just joined. And also Furlock, I know you come and gone a moment, but sorry. All right. Well, stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop, roll, roll. That's how Rough Riders roll. Fishes want to fight, fishes want to roll. Man, that song is so inappropriate now. Nobody could sing that damn song. They'd be canceled the second they got to maybe the first, probably the first refrain or chorus. All right, my loves. Have a lovey-dovey evening and stay dry. All right, guys, we'll see you next stream. And Bigfoot and Sumi will hopefully be joining us as well. Here's Bigfoot. I don't know where Sumi's at. She's being a little butt. She's being a little butt. Little foot, little butt. Andrea Lang. Andrea Lang. Good to see you. Hello. And also 64 Simon. Hello, but I gotta go. I love you guys. I'll see you later. I'll see you later. Bye. Don't say the F words. Watch this all get demonetized anyways. See if it even gets the word treatment and the closed captioning by autopilot. We'll see. We see. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Good night.